Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the show. So, I'm really excited today to be joined here by my guest, Harrison Miller, who is a real estate investor, also known as TradeBetter99, if you follow him on social media and follow his journey when he's creating content as well. So, Harrison is an investor and he is also a content creator and almost like a commentator, if you think about it, on real estate investing and finances as well. He's been a part of many different podcasts and live streams in the past. I'm really excited to bring him on to have him share a little bit about his journey in investing and some of the top tips that he can offer everybody here today. But Harrison, man, welcome to the show. So glad you're joining us here today.
Great. Thank you so much, Kobe. It's been a real pleasure here. It's been watching your show a lot, and I really want to follow more about what you do as well. And so thank you for allowing me to be on this show with you today.
Yeah, absolutely, man. You have a lot of great insights from kind of our interactions in the past and what we've seen from different podcasts that you've been on previously as well. So I would love for you to be able to share a little bit about kind of who you are and maybe a little bit about how you got into real estate investing in the first place. That can kind of give everybody a good idea of, where they start and how they can relate to your journey as well.
Yeah, definitely. It was a very weird road. I never thought I'd be owning any real estate. I've been married about 10 years. My wife and I graduated in the middle of the recession. So we were just saying, assets are toxic. Do not buy real estate. It's the worst idea ever. So we were just like, okay, we're going to work hard and rent forever, rent cheaply, and then we can find a way to retire from there on stocks. Sounds like a good idea, but yeah. So during the path and went all the way up till about 2018. I got into looking for ways for extra money, and I got looking into side jobs and then also options trading. And it was one of those things where it's like, it's not a lot of money, but it's higher risk, but high reward as well. So it was one of those, but I ended up finding that it was lucrative and everything, but it was so much work. And then it was taking away from my job. And I was like, okay, I can't do this anymore. Got into buy and hold. And lo and behold, that was right around 2020. And of course, COVID happened, but also so did the stock boom. So it's like, it's excellent, great. I can do this forever. And during this whole time, my wife and I are renting places. We're living below our means. We're like, yeah, we're doing this right. We're killing it. And then fast forward until 2022, uh, I started feeling sick. I was like, because I was always in turbo mode, but all of a sudden everything really started slowing down for me. It's like I couldn't think, I couldn't, just a lot of weird thoughts and everything. I was like, what is going on here? Uh, and then throughout the year, I was like, okay, I'm gonna go see a doctor. Ended up found it out I was cancer was my diagnosis, and it was kind of a mixed blessing. It was one of those where it's like it helped me kind of realign with what I was doing in life, and then kind of had the serious conversations because even though I knew it was cancer beforehand, we didn't know what the full diagnosis was until about 5 months later. So it's like those very weird 5 months, like, okay, dear, here's our stock portfolio. This is what you need to do. If it goes up, this, down, that, that. She's just looking at me because she works in healthcare. So she's like, I have no idea what you're saying. I love you, but I have no idea what you're saying. So it's like, okay, well, all right. Anyway, so I was like, well, what do we know here? And on the side, I was always looking at houses because, like, well, we're renting, but it might be nice to buy a house at least. And I knew the bare minimum of, find a neighborhood, good schools, somewhere near jobs, and then also don't buy the most expensive house in the neighborhood. Those were the two rules I knew, and I was just like, okay, well, we're out living in rural Oregon, and it's like, let's see what makes sense here. Uh, looking around, it was saying, oh, housing prices have never been higher. So it's like every single time everyone's paying record prices. I'm like, yeah, I can get a 2.5%, but I'm still spending $6,000 a month for a 1,000 square foot house. I'm just like, no, thank you. I'm good. Um, yeah, and so it kind of led me into Michael Zuber's program, One Rental at a Time, because I was following one other doomer because I was more like, oh yeah, let me time the market so I can buy a house. This, like, right when it crashes, I'll just be like, oh wait, all over again. obviously didn't happen. So it's like it's okay. But no, it's so but following Zuper's program, it was really interesting because I was able to just look at it more objectively, saying, well, it may not be the perfect, but it was fine. And so I was researching all this while going through chemo, and it was like, okay, so once I got my official diagnosis, who knows if I make it, but at least this will be, I don't know if you've ever seen John Wick. It'd be kind of like gifting my wife like a house instead of like, a puppy. So it was like that was kind of like the poetic way of going out. But thankfully, everything went well, made it through. And it was yeah, and so I ended up saying, okay, I guess we're leaving Oregon because my family's all in Virginia, both of our families. And they're like, how about you buy a house out here? We can watch you, we can take care of you. It's like, okay. And also the numbers in our with the more armed, like looking for potential yields if we ever had to leave, rent it out, looked great. Everything. So we ended up buying a place here. Or eventually we're looking at house hacking it and you know making some more income on that, which was great. And it all ended up turning into me asking a lot more questions. And as I'm sure you saw me around, like I was on different podcasts, like, so how do I get my wife into investing in houses? How do I, it's just like it kind of grew from that. And then it's like, okay, well, you come in with information, you come with this. It's like, it's like going back to the '08, it's like, yeah, people lost everything when they bought houses. So it's just kind of going through that whole process. And you're just saying, oh my goodness, how's it, yeah. So it was a long journey of that. And I ended up just my job is actually requirements gathering for new projects and everything. So it's like always setting up questions for the whole process. And go to earlier this year, 2024, a friend of mine said, hey, why don't you look in Akron, Ohio? Because prices are not too expensive. It's a cash flow market, so you're not going to get up and downs, but everything's going to be consistent. Looked at it, and then he gave me his realtor. We found a great small duplex. It's been cash flowing, and we closed it April, and yeah, for the last 6 months, it's been cash flowing. So it's so far nice, but I mean, of course, it's like now it's realizing, oh, we have a house that I don't live in that I have to fix up with people that complain. It's like, yeah, yeah, okay, now I get this. It's like I was a renter too, so it's kind of like thinking about all that stuff, but not doing too much. And so, but yeah, that's what really led into the journey of like buying our first rental. And I mean, it's been a really rewarding journey, but it's like I'm also tired, but it's also been really fun. So it's like being it within that first year, it's like, but these things are kind of settling out.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, whenever you're working, especially in the beginning of like starting a project, and for people who don't invest in real estate, like they don't understand like how I guess like how much work goes into it, right? I always
Right.
compare like owning rental properties to like probably three different businesses you're almost kind of running at the same time. You have to acquire the property, right? You have to make repairs on it, right? If that's something you want to do, and then you also have to manage it, right? And those three, there's businesses that are run specifically for each one of those parts, right? So if you're doing all three, it's a lot of work, and you're working a full-time job as well, which a lot of people that's how they start on real estate as well. They don't just go into it
Right.
full time that way. But I think it's really interesting that you started out like almost kind of being adverse to investing in real estate, right? Because you came
Right.
out of kind of like that '08 crash, almost kind of scarred, like a lot of people are,
Right.
and you now are I would say like all in on real estate, but you're definitely in on real estate investing. You're investing in properties, and this is kind of the direction that you're going in. So it's interesting how that plays out. And was there, you talked a little bit about kind of your journey, how that came about, but you think there's a lot of people out there who are also averse to investing, and what can you say to them about why you ended up choosing to invest in real estate and some of the benefits that you ended up seeing it, providing, rather than the risks that are involved?
That's a great question because, yeah, the whole time I was averse to it. And I would say all my friend groups, all my family, they're saying, don't, buy your house. It's your best investment, but don't go outside of it, just, and that was always the problem. But what was interesting, what made me kind of get out of that brain fog of it. Just um, I saw that it was my family, we didn't want to work, for do the 40 years of work. We wanted to find, and also we didn't know if we were going to have social security from now. We don't know if we're going to have, certain retirements. But as weird as it sounds, real estate's going to be there. It's one of those where people are going to want to buy homes. People are coming into the US, to find their dreams. And I mean, so it's whether it be through birth or immigration, which is excellent. I mean, there's always going to be people looking for homes. And that was kind of where I got out of my head trash there, and which was excellent. But the greatest thing versus stocks is that real estate's very tangible. It's like you were saying, it's like when you're doing a fix, okay, I gotta buy a new siding, but when I put it all together, it looks great. Or if I buy a vanity for the bathroom, okay, I have to put it there, but wow, it looks great. And then it's like you see yourself, I don't want to say your net worth, but you're seeing what you're building grow in a much more real fashion. And for my wife and I, that's what really helped. I mean, we still have those scars of, oh my goodness, we spent so much money on this, but all at the same time, it's been really exciting to watch, something grow from nothing. And that's been really exciting.
Right. And that's, what people always say about real estate is that it's a needed asset, right? Like there's no you can't replace real estate. You can't replace
Right.
land. As long as people exist, we're gonna need land. We're gonna need places to live in and operate in as well. So you mentioned comparing it to stocks, right? So I wanna, if you don't mind, kind of dig deeper into that as well, because you were big into stocks,
Mhm.
right,
Yeah,
back in
go for it.
and I don't know if you guys still currently own any stocks or if you guys completely moved into real estate, but between the two, right? Are you guys doing a
Mhm.
little bit of mixture of both or
Yeah, we're keeping it healthy. It's one of those things where it's like, I would never say that I would abandon stocks because I still think that there's a lot of exponential growth that you can have. But also, I don't want to overweigh myself in stocks because if there's a crash, I don't want to be so hit hard. I mean, because I mean, it's one of those things where the stock market, it moves in waves. It's like, yes, there's going to be winners, there's going to be losers, but I mean, usually they all travel together in some format. And that's where I was like, it's almost being defensive saying, hey, I'm owning real estate because, like you said, people need to live there. But I mean, it still doesn't stop me from saying, I might want to buy some more AI stocks or Tesla or something like that because I mean, I love technology. So it's a way to still kind of really keep fed into it. And I mean, you learn, and I mean, the cool thing is that you're also could invest in other companies like DR Horton or Toll Brothers, and I mean, so you're also not, it's not lost information on you. You're like, oh, I'm noticing that my the area down the street from me, they're a little bit more bougie, but you know what? They're growing, or hey, actually, the prices are contracting because that was something that happened in Oregon was a Lennar neighborhood. Um, People were moving into the more affordable homes, but the multi-generational or the more I want to say more upper scale buy up houses, they were not moving. They were throwing in concessions and they stopped building the whole neighborhood. And they've essentially kind of given up on it. But that was kind of like, okay, I'm gonna short you because I don't like this. So, but I mean it's a lot of fun, really kind of you're seeing two different worlds. And as someone who invests in both, I would recommend that everybody does both as well.
yeah, and I was about to say, right? Because when you're investing in stocks, it's easier to get into stock investing than it is real
Mhm.
estate investing, right? You can get into it with less capital. Is that kind of what you guys use to start buying properties as well as kind of capital you've accumulated from your stock investments, and then you've kind of put a little bit of that towards your real estate investments as well?
Right. Yeah. It's more of like because we've done pretty well with dividends as well. So it's like, okay, well, that's kind of free money right there. So you're like, okay, I'm gonna pull you out. I'm gonna kind of put this. It's like, okay, we're gonna need a new sink, or hey, or eventually because we're gonna want to buy our next place within the next few years, it's like, okay, this is going into our new house fund right here. And I mean, that's usually what the great part about buying certain stocks. And yeah, we've really gotten mostly out of growth stocks and more dividend stocks because I mean they're holding strong enough that I feel like yeah, and I mean I still invest, put it a few hundred every week, so it's been evening out really well.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you guys are kind of investing in when it comes to stocks, right? More so the dividend side of things over the
Mhm.
growth side. It's almost like real estate investors, if you think about it, the appreciation versus the cash flow. Is that the
Right.
same mindset and approach you're taking for real estate, or are you taking more of the appreciation approach when you're looking at real estate investments?
That is a great question, and I would definitely say invest more in the cash flow side right now, especially in this market. I actually live in an appreciation market, and so where we bought, like prices went great. The prices have never been higher. Everybody's moving here. Now nobody's moving here because they're saying, "I can't afford to live here. This is nuts." And then rent hasn't caught up yet, and so it's like you have these astronomical prices people are struggling to pay for. But so that's where like a lot of markets right now aren't making sense. But up in Ohio, I mean, prices went up, but they didn't, wild. But I mean, the rents have gone up steadily. And I mean, we're still making a great cash flow from a lower investment capital need. Because I mean, you know, 40, $50,000 gets you a long way in Ohio versus you would need probably 2 to 300 for down payments in certain areas in Virginia. So you're just like, okay, so what's the cost benefit of this? I'm still making three, maybe $400 in this. Yeah, I'm going to Ohio. So
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, right? I didn't know the price was actually so high of real estate in Virginia.
yeah,
That kind of surprised me a little bit. So for a lot of people that might not know that, but there is a price discrepancy, right, between different markets. I mean, usually people think of like New York, California as like
right.
ultra high end, and then Texas, Florida, a little bit more affordable, and Ohio is seemingly a very popular market, I think, for investors as well. So, which brings me to the point, which is you invest out of state, right? You live in a
Mhm,
different market than the place that you're investing in real estate in. Quite a few people do this. A
mhm.
lot of people who don't do this don't understand how to do this. So, if you could share a little bit about what you do to make sure that you're investing in not only the right area, but the right properties and putting in
Right.
the right tenants with the right oversight as well.
That's a yeah, great point. Yeah, this going into Ohio was definitely scary for us because it was like we can't see the house, we can't see the property, and I mean a lot of people are out right there, and I get that because we took a lot of time trying to figure that out. And what was the best part was having boots on the ground up there, was having someone that you trusted that invested. Like I was beneficial to have someone who actually invested there. He invests in different neighborhoods than I do, but I mean, he could still knew the area, and then has like a. I think the biggest part that you're going for is finding that network, and that's usually just going online or just talking to people and say, "Hey, do you know someone that invests in here?" And I mean, the great part thing about Ohio investors is like, "Oh yeah, here's my people, here's my realtor," and that was the great part because once I got connected with my realtor, it almost went automatic right there. It's like, okay, so she gave me the whole layout of the area. And I mean, she was very transparent. So she was saying, here, you can double check me because I'm a numbers guy. I will look at everything. I will say, um, okay, the growth in this neighborhood doesn't look like what you're saying. She's like, well, actually, because it's this. And so but it's been really nice. And that's what I would really recommend is that if you are going out of state, find someone that you can eventually trust in that market.
Yeah, so you absolutely need somebody boots on the
Yeah.
ground, right, to make sure that everything is in place. So do you guys are you guys hiring a property manager now or self-managing? Because you can. I know people don't understand, but you can
Right.
self-manage even across state lines.
Yeah. So when we started off, we were self managing. We were trying to really make everything work out. Um, it was just too difficult for me because working full time and then waking up at 2 a.m. is like, hey, the furnace is out. Awesome. So it's just like trying to, getting people to come because I mean, our HVAC guy was great, but we got a lot of grumbling as well. So it's just one of those things where it's like, okay, this isn't going to work for us. So we have a PM right now, and they've been great. I mean, it's one of those where, I mean, you always have to double check them. It doesn't matter if they're great, if they're terrible. You're always going to just make sure that the numbers make sense when you're going through the sheets. And that's the other thing is that I think we interviewed five property managers, and this one actually kind of snuck through. us. Our realtor said, "Yeah, I've talked to them and I know the owner, but I've never actually worked with them." And so it kind of actually really worked out. And so far, I mean, they've given us updates weekly, and it's, I mean, we're a small, and they operate over 1,000. We're a small group, but they still, take the time to talk to us, which is, I would really implore is, if you feel like that your property manager is ignoring you, I'd probably go somewhere else. Yeah.
Yeah, because you need the updates, right? I don't know if
Right.
you have you guys ever actually been boots on the ground to that location, or have you guys have not seen the property yet in person?
So that's funny. So my family is originally from like the Cleveland area, but everyone's spread out. So we know the area well enough. And I haven't seen the property since we bought it. That is the plan for this fall though. So we're trying to see if we can make it up there. But I mean, yeah, that's the biggest thing, is that it's buying sight unseen was scary. I mean, it's like, I mean, what we learned was that we actually rented our house in Oregon when we lived out there. Didn't even, we just saw the Zillow photos. We're like, okay, good enough. It's like, so we kind of were able to get over that fear. But no, I agree with you. That is something I would recommend. If you can make the time to go out and do that, do it, and it'll make you everything feel a lot better. Because honestly, I probably had a few um items I would have caught if that the reviewers didn't. It's like, oh, there's a few leaks here, or oh, this might need to get fixed. That is something that you have to understand. If you're out of state, either have your contractor walk through it and just videotape with you through it, or yeah, stream it. So yeah, but I'm not, I dated myself there. But no, it's or at least just go there with them. And yeah, I would really recommend doing that.
Yeah. So, getting actually access to it, right? Regardless if
Mhm.
it's somebody else, like through somebody else's eyes, or going down there. Because we know, like, if you're investing out of state, you're probably not gonna be able to go like every single time, especially if you're acquiring properties at a pretty good rate,
Right.
right? You probably don't want to make that flight out. Maybe that cuts into your margins as you're investing in
Exactly.
the state as well. But it's good to see what's there, right? But you're
Mhm.
proving that it's possible to do this. It's possible to invest out of state without necessarily seeing the property, without necessarily being there. And I think, maybe you can touch on this as well, is that do you think it gave you more skill sets to be able to scale as far as your real estate investment bigger and faster into the future? Because a lot of investors, right, when they're kind of up to a certain point, even if it is local,
Mhm.
they personally don't go out there and look at the property, right? They hire an acquisitions manager, somebody else to go out there, and they make the decision. So do you think that helps you actually in developing those skill sets of knowing what to look for based on the information you have and knowing what risks you can take?
That, yes, I 100% agree with you. I think that this house has been our learning table, where we've learned about, okay, water flows here differently, or snow is a little bit different. But I mean, what's great is that we know all the different kinds of houses in the area, because they're all made right around the same time. And so it's like, okay, we know what to look for, we know the age. And so now it's kind of like you said, it's streamlined now. And so it's like having an acquisition manager, that'd be perfect, because you're saying, hey, these are the margins I'm looking at. This is what I want to get out of it. Take it or leave it. And I mean, yeah, that's been the great thing about, I'd say, being 6 months. Yeah, just 6 months into this, I'm like, wow, I feel like I can actually do this now. Because the first 3 months is like, I swear I'm having fun. I know I'm enjoying this, but now that you're a little bit further out, you're like, okay, I can breathe now. And that's been the really fun part about actually seeing the investment in this. And I'm really appreciating. And yeah, I know I'm ready to start next property right now. So
Nice.
yeah.
That's awesome, man. So you're building momentum, right? And with anything, when you get a little bit of success, and in the beginning parts of things, right, it's the hardest because it's new to you. I think we
Mhm.
talked a little bit about this maybe on a previous podcast that we did, like on a live stream earlier, where the beginning stages is the hardest, right? Getting used to it, and
Yep.
then once you get used to it, you start to enjoy it more. You start to see the fruits of your labor more, and then that you carry that win moving forward and rolling it into the next one and the next one. And, that's how you see the quote unquote overnight successes.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I could not agree more because it's one of those where it's like it's even like starting a new job. It's you're saying, "Oh my goodness, I'm in this new position. What's going to happen?" But then you're once you get into it, you get to the routine. You're like, "Oh, this isn't that bad." It's the same thing as buying a house. I know it sounds crazy, but it actually isn't in that same method.
Right, exactly. So, kind of want to pivot a little bit here into something else you brought up about kind of, your journey into
Hmm.
investing as well. And it's the fact that you were ended up getting diagnosed with cancer.
Hmm.
And there are people out there who struggle with the same things as well, or other health issues, or other issues
Hmm.
that may not be health related, but also very severe as well. So, maybe walk us through kind of that mental journey because there is always going to be a mental journey in that, right? Of
Oh yeah.
acceptance, but also kind of learning to live with what the problems are today, but not focusing on them so much that you can also get past it as well.
Right. I mean, I guess the biggest thing with cancer, and I mean, yeah, anything else, you kind of have to realize that life goes on. I mean, everything continues. And I knew that even if I wasn't going to be here, my family's going to be here, my wife's going to be here. And so it's just one of those where it's like, okay, I might have a shorter finish line. And it was like, it's a lot of, uh, self-realization moments that you have right there. And I mean, so for anyone that's going through this process as well, I mean, the biggest thing I would say, talk to your loved ones, tell them about, what's going on. Be sure to reach out to them and just, say, hey, life is, it's tough, but I appreciate you being here. That's like that really helps out a lot. But it's focusing forward, and because it's so easy to wallow in the pain. It's one of those it's one of those where it's like, and I mean, there's a lot of days, especially going through chemo, your memory goes, and so it's like, wow, like I was very grateful that I was able to work, but man, my managers were very kind to me. So, but it was one of those, but I mean, I would just say that, yeah, always focus on what your goal is. Focus on getting better. Focus on, it's like, there's pain here. You might have some extra pain going through whatever you're going through, and but reach out to those that are loved, and be sure that you focus on that end point. It's like, so for me it's like, okay, we're gonna buy a house and then I'm gonna beat cancer, so either way. So it was like that was the exciting part. So
Yeah, that's good on you, man. And
yeah.
do you think it changes like kind of the way you approach things and maybe the way you look at being able to take more risks now that you have gone through that? Because there's a lot of people who are afraid of, taking risks, buying that first property, investing in stocks. Some people are
Yeah.
afraid to do that, right? Do you think it allows you to maybe live more freely a little bit and take more risks?
Yeah, it does. That's a great point because I was just thinking about that. It's like having cancer is like, okay, it gave me a time point. It was like, okay, this might be over, but you know what? Let's live life a little bit. Let's, we were very good at being conservative, saving. All right, let's use the savings. Let's move forward. Let's, take a few calculated risks. Don't don't go to Vegas. But I mean, it's one of those. But it's one of those where it's just like, yeah, it opened my eyes and heart to say, you know what, and especially like being going through cancer is like, because when you're buying a rental property, you're helping somebody get a house. It's one of those. It's like, and that's how I took that approach, was that you're providing housing for someone. And I mean, like, I'm not trying to be the greedy person. I'm just trying to make sure that the margins are okay. And I mean, and that's how I take my approach. And then when I was talking to the tenants, I was like, hey, I understand. It's like, this is times are hard right now. We'll make things work, but we also need to make sure that you're doing your side as well. And so, I mean, I guess it gave me a lot more patience with everything and everybody. So it's like, hey, the loan's not going through right away. It's like, it's fine. It's a few days. It's like, so and that's what's one thing I would say for everybody. Just take a breath and, it'll be okay.
Yeah. I love that. I love that you shared that because that I think what a big part of why people are upset or they're going through something where there's a lot of worry or anxiety. it comes down to, and you put it really well, which is patience, right? You have a lot more patience now that you've gone through something that could have been far worse than maybe a loan not coming through,
Mhm.
or a contractor being a couple hours late or
Yeah.
something, right? Anything that could get people riled up and just even today in kind of a bad market where things might not be going so well. So you've kind of shown people that if you've gone through something that's truly serious, that it gives you more grace and it gives you
Yeah.
more patience. And I think we should all strive at least to live something like that because, all the issues that we think are end of the world issues are not necessarily so, really, if we take some time to think about it.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, it's one of those you summed it up perfectly because yeah, you just need to really think about, is this really the end of the world? Is this, is my day really ruined? It's not. You'll be fine.
I love it. Yeah, exactly. So and just kind of wrap up here today, moving forward, you mentioned you're looking to kind of get into like you're ready to get into your next property, right? So what does it kind of look like for you as far as your financial goals as far as investing and building out your portfolio? Understand that not everybody needs to have the goal to build like 100 property portfolio. So realistically, what does it look like for you? What is something that you're kind of aiming for in the next couple of years or so as you continue this journey of investing?
Yeah, that's a great question. Realistically, I'm looking at least to pull five, maybe six more properties at the same cash flow level I'm getting. That would be the great part, where it's like, okay, this can cover my expenses, and then everything, becomes a lot less worrisome as far as expenses go. My dream stretch goal would be like, hey, let's go for 30. This could be actually kind of fun. I mean, it's one of those where I know I've got the bug, and that's where it's like, okay, I'm just gonna do this for fun almost. It's just so it's like, yeah, five to eight, that would be great. That would be like, okay, I can retire, no problems. But if we go to 30, it's like, ooh, we can have fun. And so it's like, then we can, yeah, just, you know, then I can really just play around and like just work with other people. And that's really my goal.
Right. And I want to kind of ask you that specifically just because, there's so many people you see out there, right? Even other people I've interviewed where, they come in and they're like, well, I've got this construction company and these multifamilies and, hundreds of doors or whatever, right? And, that's okay. Right? There's nothing
Yeah,
wrong with that, obviously, but that's not what everybody needs to be striving for, in my opinion. I think we need to get to a point where we're honest with ourselves, what it is that we want. And I think you've done such a great job of doing that, as well as kind of the circle of investors that you're in that you mentioned with the one rental at a time community as well. I think everybody that I've met in that community very honest with themselves and very honest with what is it that they want and what is the quickest and most practical way to get there,
right.
and then we'll move forward from there, right? We'll hit our stretch goals once we take care of our need goals first, which is I think for most people not necessarily good enough, but let's get there first.
Right. Yeah. 100% agree with you. Yeah. It's always fun to dream, but it's also like, let's base it in reality. So that's a great way to say it.
Right. Yeah. And a lot of times I think, it's good to dream, right? Not saying that's not reality. I think it still is, right? If you really want to go for it. But for a lot of people, I do think that it's not necessarily the lifestyle that they want. It takes a certain amount of sacrifice to get to that point, right? And those levels of success. And for a lot of people, it's a conversation you kind of have with yourself of whether or not you want to sacrifice that much for that period of time to experience that level of success, or are you more or less satisfied with this is the type of life that I want to build, right? Because
Right.
at the end of the day, it's about affecting your lifestyle, not necessarily the business or the portfolio that you have.
Exactly. Yeah.
But cool, man. I really appreciate you, Harrison, being here on the podcast today. You shared a lot of great tips with us, and really appreciate you being able to kind of share your story as well as some of the experiences that you've had, and just kind of proving and showing us all what is possible in the real estate space, right? And how people can get started, and what are some of the things that you could do as an investor to begin building your wealth. So for people that are out there who, listen to this or watching this that want to connect with you or maybe want to reach out to you, maybe even kind of listen in on some of the other podcasts that you're on regularly, what are some of the best ways for people to connect with you or to kind of reach out and kind of see what you're currently doing in real estate?
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, it'd be at TradeBetter99 for Instagram and YouTube. I'm going to start posting videos there. So that's going to be really exciting. You're also going to see me on the Financial Firefighters podcast. He does a wonderful job, and as you know, he makes it a lot of fun, and it's always a great group to talk to.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll make sure to leave the links to your handles down below as well. I'm looking forward to kind of seeing you post some videos as well. I know you've been, you mentioned a financial firefighter, Mark. Inspired a lot of people to. I've seen it. I've seen him inspire a lot of people to start their own channels, and that's props as well. So I'm excited to kind of see you start posting some videos as well and growing the channel because you never know, right? You never know what's going to lead to and who you might inspire. But appreciate you, man. And just before we let you go here today, is there any last pieces of advice, any last tips you would like to leave with our listeners here today before you sign off?
Yeah, just like I said, just be sure to reach out to your loved ones. Always say hi. Just even a quick text. And yeah, always be willing to talk to them about real estate. I think that's really the fun part. So
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely, man. That's some great advice, and I appreciate yours and appreciate you all for tuning in. And we'll see you in the next show. Take
no
care.
problem. Bye.